Hello everybody and welcome. So for this video, I'm a Miami Heat fan, so I think for the rest of the playoffs until they lose, I'm basically gonna do like a mini game recap and just sort of my thoughts on the game because I'll admit I'm not the most knowledge when it comes to the NBA. I struggled a lot this year in the NBA when it comes to like betting and just kind of like not getting it, obviously, I would say, but like when it comes to the betting side of it and some of the, I guess, like play wise and scheme wise, some of it I do fail to understand a little bit. It's not my strongest sport, but I still understand it. I was there pretty well. And after watching last night's game, the final score was 109, 103, but I felt like that was a very, very, very deceiving game. I was very confused. So basically, off the rip, the Heat just came out scorching hot, and in the first quarter, they ended up finished up 39 to 18, but it felt like it was way more one-sided than that. It seemed like the Heat were making almost every single shot that went in, and that like nothing could be stopped or nothing could stop them. And this just has been the telling of the series so far, is where one team just has a really, really, really good quarter, and that basically like sets up the game. After that, in the second quarter, it was a little more evened out, but the Heat took such a big a lead that at one point the game got up to 26. And basically, like it looked like honestly by the second quarter that this game was going to be over. Bam Adebayo at one point in the first half had 16 points, and that was combined for more points than he had the whole series up to that point. So Bam had a really big first half, but bigger than that was the addition of Kyle Lowry. I didn't realize how important Kyle Lowry was to this team and how good he was for them flow wise. He was in the game for maybe like the first like 5 or so minutes, and he basically set the tone for the Heat as he was just passing the ball before. Not even at one point in the game, the announcers even said he wasn't even looking to get the assist. He was just trying to move the ball forward and get the ball movement, and that ball movement seemed to like mess Boston up a lot as the Heat had a bunch of early baskets, and that basically like helped them set the tone and then go in the second half. And so, like I said, at one point they were up 26, so they were up damn by halftime. I can't remember, but it was roughly about that number. If I remember correctly, the Celtics started to make it a little bit close, but it's still so far to the point out of reach where it's like there's no way they actually come back, right? And then the second half started with Jimmy Butler having knee inflammation, and that right there, instantly, right when that happened, I'm like, uh-oh, that might be trouble. That second half, this is the main. This, I don't know what that second half was. The Heat, like the third quarter, ended up being 25 to 25 score wise, and then the fourth quarter, the Heat got outscored by 10. But before I get to the fourth quarter, before I get to that fourth quarter, in that third quarter, it just seemed like I don't know, the Celtics just did enough to hang around. The Heat were semi struggling, not like too much, but I think the issue I have with I'll get into that fourth quarter because there's more issues in the fourth quarter. So yeah, like I said, so for the first like 3 quarters of the game, the Heat looked pretty dominant, and then about the third quarter is when it looked like they were slipping a little bit. And then when it came to the fourth quarter, they just looked disastrous. The fact that I just read the score, that was 22. I'm shocked. It literally for the first 8 minutes of the quarter, the Heat were basically held to, I believe it was 3 of 12 or 3 of 15 shooting, and that was just the Heat shooting was just atrocious. Um, they couldn't make anything, and they basically were struggling from the field. And another issue I just looked it up. Max Strus finished 6 of 12. I love him as a player, but there were some shots he just takes sometimes where it's like, what are you doing? There was a D3 trying to pull up on Tatum at the towards the end of the game where he airballed, and it's like that's not the shot at all. There's some threes where he just literally turns the corner and immediately shoots. It's like, did you even see the rim? It's just with him, it's so hard because he has become such a good shooter this year. That's like I don't want to fault him too much, but there was like a shot or two where I'm like, I probably should have passed that out. So basically, as the game goes on, it went from a 26-point game and it looked like the Heat were going to march them out the building to by the third quarter, they just let Jaylen Brown go nuts on him all game, and fourth quarter he was starting to heat up even more. And I think they got it down to as much as one at one point, where they kept giving Jaylen Brown layup lines and keep leaving him open for shots. And then they called the timeout, and then the Heat were basically able to get it back up to six-ish, and then that's where it stayed the rest of the game. But I that This series, I really don't know anymore. I was pretty confident that he would win the series. There's a lot of people who say the Celtics will, but at this point, I don't know, man. Both teams just like there's so many times both teams they just look so dominant, so great, and then there's other times that you just can't tell them. I mean, both these teams like that. The Heat looked amazing in the first half, and then they had a 3 for 12 fourth quarter where they couldn't make anything, and it took a lot at the end to get it going. Another thing that I was really happy with the game tonight was the way that PJ Tucker defended Tatum. He is just a beam, and he's just so good. He's a huge piece that the Heat needed, and I think he's going to be the one piece that's going to be able to hopefully get him over the hump in this round. And along with the PJ Tucker piece, the Heat offense might have struggled tonight, but man, that defense was amazing tonight. It's basically what held them in the game because for the second half of the whole game, it felt like they were just struggling to score. So 19 steals with the playoff franchise record is insane. I mean, if you watch Oladipo was a menace last night with the steals. So I mean, and then Kyle Lowry had some key steals here and there that were just like lazy passes from like Grant Williams towards the end of the game, or just like a lazy pass here. So if he can keep that part up again in the next game, I think it could be scary. But the thing that needs to come with this defense is some offense for this game to round it out. I thought the Heat did all right. I feel like they could definitely do way better. Um, Looking forward to game four, like what they're going to fix is I think the shot selection. There were so many points towards the end of the game where instead of taking maybe like an open three or a contested jump shot, they just wait 1 or 2 more seconds. They might be able to get either a cut or get somebody else on like a shorter mid range. I know the mid range isn't as important, but it just felt like overall though, going into game four, I really the way that the way they played, I just thought both these teams are so shaky. I want to say the Heat are going to win game four, but I truly don't know. So basically, to sum up my assessment of game three, I thought that he had a dominating first half. And then the third quarter was kind of iffy, and then the fourth quarter was really bad until the very end when they finally started making shots. So basically, my review of this is in order for the Heat to actually become dominant in this series and actually start putting their foot down on the throat, they need to wake up a little bit and play for all 4 quarters. Because